Right. Hello, everyone. My name is Kiran Koditala. Mike, thank you for your leadership here, and thank you for letting me present. Starting off, I want to give a disclaimer. There's a lot of CEOs. Some CEOs are CTO CEOs that are very technical. They are technology focused. Some CEOs are visionary CEOs. And some CEOs are business CEOs. I am what I would call it as in the middle, right? I know technology, but not at the level of Richie or even for that matter, Kevin. I understand technology from the perspective of business. I understand technology from the perspective of how can it be used from a business perspective. A little bit about myself. My name is Kiran Koditala. I'm founder and CEO of End2End. I have 20 years of experience, all of it in higher education. I started off working 20 years ago with University of Illinois, and my first project was UI Integrate, rightfully so, where Chicago, Springfield, and Urbana-Champaign was trying to integrate into a single student information system called Banner. And when we realized that we need to build something like that, University of Illinois has done a full architecture work and said, if we need to integrate all the three universities into a student information system and write all the point-to-point interfaces needed, it would take them 1,500 point-to-point interfaces. And it would cost them probably tens of millions of dollars. And that was unsustainable. So as a result of this effort, they quickly realized that we need an enterprise application integration strategy. And I was involved with that. It's later called OpenEAI, OpenEAI Software Foundation. It's still now used at Emory, University of Illinois, and Ohio State University and others. But that's not what we are here to talk about. What we are here to talk about is really, why are we here, right? What exactly are we trying to accomplish here? Yes, we are here to talk about blockchain. Yes, we are here to talk about education, but why? Why? Why do we care about blockchains? What is the fundamental thing that we're trying to do? We're trying to innovate. We're trying to disrupt. We're trying to transform an education model, like Mike said, is sometimes quite alarmingly backdated. I joke all the time, but we still use terms like sage on stage, right? So what is sage on stage anyway? What is a transcript? If you think about it. I believe that I might be anecdotally wrong about this, but the way transcript originally was created was when a teacher or a sage taught Bible class, they would give a plate, a rock with transcript saying, yes, you completed the Bible study or something like that. And that was the beginning of a transcript, basically a rock with your name engraved and a course completed. A sage on stage was exactly that. A sage teaching Bible and kids sitting on benches and learning it and completing it. And this was 2,000 years ago. And we're still in the similar constructs. We're still trying to say, how can we transform the 2,000-year-old model? And that's why we're talking about innovation, creativity, new models of learning, new educational delivery systems, new platforms, and everything else. But why? Why is that important? Why do we need to innovate? Why do we need to transform? Why do we need to make things better? The reason why we need trying to make things better is to accomplish a few things. We are trying to increase institutional collaboration. We're trying to make things better so that universities can share data amongst themselves. Right now, there are several states where the state has given a mandate saying community college should be able to freely exchange data with a four-year college. A student should be able to go to any college within a state and be able to learn any course and get a degree without having to worry about going from transfer or going through any long, arduous processes. There are actual regulations supporting this. However, it's not as easy as that, right? It's not that simple to just click a button and share data with another university. There are a lot of problems there, and we'll get to that. And also automation, engagement, increasing automation so that institutions can do better. But why? Why is that important? What good does it do if we can collaborate more, right? What is our ultimate purpose of being here? Anybody? You can yell out the answer. It's not an answer. It's some thoughts about why we are here. Exactly. We are here to make education, simply put, accessible and affordable for all. Simple, right? I mean, Mike said it in the last minute when they talked about a person that who drove 65 miles each day to get a 2-year degree. That's not accessibility, right? That means that education is not accessible to this person. In this day of internet, when we're able to learn everything wherever we want, whenever we want, we can actually, if you sit online enough, you can actually figure out how to build a rocket. That's how much there is internet. But now we're getting a 2-year associate degree where you have to actually travel to campus every day. Why is that? And affordability. We all know the student debt crisis, where students are stuck with lifelong debt on their financial aid because of the fact that they're spending anywhere from $25,000 to $200,000 on a 4-year degree. So education is not affordable. And most importantly, even if they can access it and afford it, we are not able to promise, regardless of how much money they spend, a success of the student. We are not, there's no campus in the United States, the best country in the world, where the student success is over 80%. We are talking about Stanford's. Unfortunate thing is, there's over 40% of universities where student success is under 30%. Think about that for a second. We are basically saying that 2 out of our 3 customers are dropping out by the end of first year. So essentially, the problem we are trying to solve here is not innovating the education. It's not trying to make it better or make it better, look better, or feel better, or do anything else. We're basically saying, how do we make education accessible, affordable, and make sure that every student that joins our campus can become successful? And that is what our objectives are. And I'm sure there are other objectives as well, and I'll be happy to hear them. But if they are the objectives, why are we not able to meet those objectives? What are the hindrances for our ability to achieve this? Any thoughts? Well, I call this the Fort Knox problem. So we all know what Fort Knox is. You can only go in and you can't get out, or is it very hard to get out? So some people call it a walled garden problem. Some people call it Fort Knox problem. Some people call it black hole. What I mean by that is educational institutions have a high level of security, not just because of a physical security or logical security. It's the way the systems are organized. And you heard Dr. Martinez talk about how hard it is to extract data from Banner or D2Ls or other systems. So because of the fact that the education systems are sometimes legacy and sometimes quite difficult to pull from, they create a black hole for student information. So essentially, because of this, it prevents not only other institutions to access this data, but also within the institution, it's very hard for an academic faculty member to figure out what the student's degree plan is, how can I help him and how or her, or how can I make his life better? How can I make him more successful? Or a financial aid person to see what are all the resources that are available so that I can find a better solution for the student. That's our biggest issue. The biggest issue is the fact that the data is stuck in Fort Knox, and it makes it very hard, even for smart people like John Anderson, to pull the information from. And then there is data silos, right? The silos are where this is my admissions data. This is my financial aid data. This data is not accessible for these people. And because of this, even when a chancellor is trying to figure out what can I do to make this data share, and what can I do to make every student successful? What can I do to follow the state mandate and satisfy the state regulators? Even a chancellor or a president is not able to solve this. Do you guys agree that these are your consistent problems? Yes? Why is it that we created Fort Knox and data silos for amongst ourselves? And the original reason is we wanted universities to be able to be self-contained. We wanted universities to be, university was just that. We teach everything else, and we don't need students to go anywhere else. But however, we also have somehow created this concept where every university has its own model. For example, the catalog at every university is different. So it makes it impossible or very difficult for a university to be able to share data with other university. Or a student, what a grade, for example, A in one institution might be something else in another institution. Or the financial aid structure or tuition codes are completely different. But because they are different, it makes it impossible to trust each other. So this causes an inherent issue with our ability to share data amongst ourselves. And if you go back to the original slide, that our objective is interoperability. The objective is to collaborate. Objective is to automate for the specific purpose of making education affordable, accessible, and make it more student success. The lack of trust creates a chasm from us to meet the objectives. And that is the fundamental problem here. That is what we are here to solve. And, and blockchain is a tool that will accomplish that, and we'll get there. And this is what we talked about. The evolution of education, I don't need to talk about this with any of you guys because you all know how we evolved from stage to the current model. But however, the biggest issue we have is the fact that now we are trying to do the same thing we did from stage to stage, but more on computers. Like for example, even online learning, it's a replication of how an institute or stage to stage or teacher teaches on the classroom and trying to replicate online. And that's where the problem is. And that's what we need to solve. What we're trying to solve at Intuon or otherwise, or each one of us, is to figure out how to make education more successful and more transformative by like thinking about competency-based education, inter-institutional registration, mobile learning, project-based learning, and all these great trends that we talked about. And the roadblocks are, if I have to distill all the roadblocks into one, the fundamental roadblock for us to accomplish this, because I was involved with most of this initiative. For example, I was involved with initiative with Brandman University, where we integrated a full student information system and learning management system and financial aid management system, all to provide a student a competency-based education learning environment so that student can take a degree for $5,400 per year, and they can finish a bachelor in business administration in a game-based learning environment, all in a self-paced environment. But what we continuously see, each environment or each institution or each of this transformative effort is the issue with data, the issue with data silos, preventing the organizations to move forward. And this issue with data is caused as a result of lack of contracts between organizations, lack of contracts within the organization, lack of trust that is causing this issue. And why is blockchain relevant in this discussion? And this is where blockchain really comes in. I continuously talk about interoperability, the ability for institutions to share data, the ability for institutions to trust each other. Like Richie first talked about, one of the fundamental things of what makes blockchain better or more trustworthy than anything else is the immutability factor, right? So if you think about what makes a student transcript valuable or truly verifiable, is because it's coming with an institution signature saying this is the registrar's office, saying this is a transcript. However, it's not immutable, is it? It's only immutable if somehow the person who received it can send it back to the registrar's office and saying, hey, did you actually send it? But that's a lot of hops. A lot of times institutions, so people just assume that this is valid and just accept it. There is no transcript verifying system. But with blockchain, you can actually do that. If there is an actual transcript that is on a blockchain transaction, you can verify it right away. Or if there's a catalog, for example, that which says, this is my syllabus, this is my course, you can verify it. So the immutability of the transaction with an ability to verify the transaction is what makes blockchain very, very useful for an educational transaction. But the other part of blockchain that is even more sophisticated and more useful is the chaining right? So chaining, sorry, I think I went backward. So chaining of transactions. So imagine a blockchain of a student. And again, I'm going to try to take you on a journey that's about 5 years ahead, where we talk about, how can we use blockchain to really transform and disrupt learning? And that's what we're talking about. Imagine a blockchain transcript where the student's structured and unstructured learning are all included in this transcript. Imagine LinkedIn, for example, where a student's structured learning, which includes their transcripts from high school, undergraduate degree, or master's degree, and unstructured learning, like structured work where he learned some courses on YouTube, Coursera, Udemy, or others, and some other self-learning that he has done as part of his work experience included in one single unified blockchain transaction. And the student can then say, now I want to know what this means. Does it mean I have a master's degree or a bachelor's degree, or can I use this to trade it for getting a job? So with power of blockchain, we can create a universe where student can build a unified transcript that allows the student to integrate their structured and unstructured learning into a single transaction and share it with a prospective employer to get a job, or share it with the credential authority to figure out if any of this learning can translate into micro credentials or real credentials, or share it with a university to figure out how many of this work slash structured and unstructured learning can be used to get a formal degree. And that is where I see the power of blockchain. The power of blockchain for education is three things. One is the immutability of the transaction, our ability to make sure that every transaction is valid. Second, in the ability to connect the transactions, irrespective of what the transactions are, into a single unified structure. And third, in the ability of securely exchanging the data with anybody that is a valid recipient. And if we can make that happen, blockchain can truly transform and disrupt the education. So there are three examples that I'll talk about here, and we'll have a hands-on demo as well, that just gives you the vision of how far we can take it. And again, some of it can be disruptive, some of it can be revolutionary, some of it might not happen. But I do strongly believe that if we take blockchain to the nth degree, these are some of the things that we think are impossible today can be possible. First is affordable education. Imagine a universe where a student can say, why should I go to Georgia Tech and get a 4-year degree instead of going to this community college and getting credits at $30 per credit hour, or go to Coursera and learn some courses, or go to YouTube and learn courses, and I only go to Georgia Tech for courses that are really good, that I really want to purchase. Imagine a shopping cart where a student is in control of their learning experience, where the students decides to not only chart their curriculum, not only build their learning pathway, I think like Dr. Martinez said, it's a personal learning pathway, but also follow that pathway by pursuing a shopping cart method where he can buy any course anywhere they want or do it for free. And that is when we can truly make it an affordable education. And it can scare people, right? For 4-year degrees, college institutions will really be scared when you hear something like this, saying, well, what do you mean kids will not come and get a 4-year degree from us? Why should they? What is the need for us to go to one single institution and learn everything from one institution? When we can go to Amazon and get whatever book we want, when we can search anywhere we want, when we can buy our clothes wherever they want, why can't we learn education where we would like to learn and find the right place to learn the right things? And our education can only be affordable if we can create that kind of scenario. And if we follow that path, the unified transcript, it doesn't go far either, where the student is learning all these different courses from different places. A unified transcript basically puts it all in a single structure saying, these are all the courses you've learned from all your different places. Now you can use this to get a job, or get this transcript verified by a credential authority, or take it to ASU and get a degree for it. And ultimately, Mike and I always talk about what's called a personal value ledger. If you take it to the next level, the real learning for me started when I stopped learning. So it's a kind of conundrum, right? I was a bachelor in pharmacy. I did my bachelor's in pharmacy. My master's was in medicinal chemistry. But I am not a chemist or a pharmacist. I started working in IT department in the University of Illinois. Then I did series of consulting work, started my first company, and went to my second company. So for me, if I would say I'm a MBA person, like I probably should be an MIS plus MBA from my work experience, but from a learning perspective, I'm a chemist or a pharmacist. What am I? I'm certainly not a pharmacist or a chemist. My work defines my learning. However, the way our current systems work, we don't get credit for that. We don't really get credit for what we actually learn. And that's why the personal value ledger is critical. A personal value ledger is an ability for a student or a lifelong learner to integrate their structured learning, like education courses or non-education courses, with unstructured learning, like work experience, self-learning, or some other engagement activities they've done. And if we can do these three things, I strongly believe that education can be affordable, accessible, and most importantly, allow for success of every student. So is this all a pie in the sky, or can we actually do something about this, right? That's why we are here, right? It's all good, it sounds great on paper, but what can we actually do in campus, maybe tomorrow? I know Lipscomb is doing a great job, and ORU and College of New Mexico are doing some cool things. But what are some of the things that we can think about powered by blockchains? And I'm giving you two examples that we can consider. And obviously, like Mike said, the consortia option allows us to think, actually implement it. So for example, let's assume a student steps a foot on campus and you create a student success approach. And you basically, let's just call it an EduCoin, for example. The student says, we have a great EduCoin program. For you to be part of the EduCoin program, you register. And once you register, you can authorize the university to listen to information or monitor or receive the information related to your campus life. And some information can be generic information like student information, learning management system information, their fees and others. But some information might be a little intrusive, like what time they're coming into dorm, what time they're leaving, how are they engaged with the campus activities, what is their pattern on meals or whatever. So whatever information you want to track. And the student is incentivized to share this information because every time a transaction goes through, they'll get an EduCoin, and this EduCoins can be traded for some value that they can get on campus. And this information, ultimately, as far as student is concerned, he's allowing the university to share his library information, there's academic information, learning information, attendance information, and in return, he's getting credits for that. And what is the advantage of doing something like this? There are two advantages. One is we are letting, just like Richie said, we are putting student in charge. We are letting the student make decision on what information he can share with the university and sharing the information. But the other thing is institution is now collecting the information through Bitcoins, and this information can be used to allow for student success. For example, some things can be pretty nascent. If the student is consistently late in submitting assignments, we can say, well, this student seems to be delinquent. Maybe we need to have a counseling session to talk to the student. Or some information might be more predictive, saying he's late for assignments, so this means that he might actually fail in this course. We need to remediate that. So where we see blockchains supporting artificial intelligence and predictive learning is when you start collecting data, truly predictive data about what the student's behavior on campus, you can truly make a difference to the student's life. you can actually say, based on your dorm activity, you are entering your dorm at 4 a.m. in the morning every Thursday. So maybe we need to rethink the scenario, something like that. I mean, we certainly don't want universities to play Uncle Sam here, but certainly it ultimately is the student is responsibility to share the data. And from a student's incentivization perspective, he is sharing this data in return for EduCoins. And from an institution's perspective, institution is receiving this data and using this for the purposes of allowing for comprehensive student success. And we feel that this is a fairly simple implementation that can be done, and it can be taken much beyond just saying he got a B, C in a midterm grade, so he's going to fail. So midterms and final grades are post indicators. They're not predictive indicators, because by the time you receive that information, it's too late. But if we can add additional campus activities on the way they're interacting with the faculty members, the way they're interacting with their classmates, the way they are interacting with the learning management system, you can truly predict the student risk and hopefully increase your student success. So that's one of the blockchain intra-campus transaction. And another inter-campus transaction, as you can imagine, as I discussed before, the fundamental value of blockchain is an ability to share data very quickly and ability to share data securely and in a verifiable fashion. So with blockchain, once you have a blockchain fabric in place, institutions can receive transcript data, student grade data, attendance data, or any other data that student wants to authorize to allow for students to be able to freely exchange, move from one campus to another. For example, if a student wants to register at one Florida institution to another Florida institution, they should be able to do that with click of a button, because Bitcoin allows them to share their profile freely with one institution to another, because that's just a transaction. Or it can be a fee information that an institution says, this is our fee schedule for all our courses, and let's build a contract to allow for free exchange of fee information. Or it can be attendance information, or it can be library books or grades or catalogs. Any information you want to share between one institution to another that can be freely exchanged, powered by Bitcoins. Why is Bitcoin any different than sharing the data on a CSV file or a flat file or any other interface? The reason for that is two things. One is, it's secure, and it's immutable, and most importantly, it's verifiable. Those three characters make blockchain a better way to share data. And most importantly, on top of all this, you can build smart contracts between institutions. For example, your transfer articulation rules between institutions can be converted into a smart contract, so that student can say math 101 here is equal to math 203 here, or other things like that. So Bitcoin allows you to, blockchain allows you to be able to securely exchange data powered by contracts. And again, we can get into the detail, and I'll share this PowerPoint with Mike, but there's several EduCoin transactions you can share through blockchain, and each one of this is transaction as far as we are concerned. So now it comes to the ground reality. All of this is great. We've been looking at it from 100,000 or 100-mile level, and now you go to your CIO, and some CIOs are here. But anyway, your IT department, and you go to your IT department and you say, hey, I've heard this in blockchain conference. We need to build APIs. Can we build student information system APIs in minutes? Or APIs at all? Can we control the security? Can we merge APIs? Can we integrate APIs or build blockchain APIs? You can ask any one of these questions, and the answer is no, or impossible, or I don't have time, or what the hell are you talking about? Right? We all are familiar with that. But that's why I'm here. We are here to make this impossible possible. What end-to-end does at the heart of it is ability to share data in a secure way. At the heart of our platform is an ability to connect to the student information systems, the banners of the world, the learning management systems like D2L, Blackboard, and others, and expose them as turnkey APIs. And not only do we expose them as turnkey APIs, but we make it easy for IT departments to be able to use these APIs so that they can take an API and manage field level security, convert a student transcript API, for example, I think like Mike talked about, and convert into a blockchain API in a matter of minutes, apply templates, apply security, apply transformation and translation. And that's what our platform does. So I'm not going to get into too deep into this. This is just a high-level overview of what Illuminate does. The name of our platform is Illuminate, and it's specifically built for turnkey integration to support automation, whether it's integrating with Workato or any workflow automation tools. It has a marketplace of connectors that includes student information systems connectors, learning management system connectors, but also other marketplace vendors. For example, Starfish Hobson's has built their degree planner using our platform. Modo Labs has built their mobile application connector using our platform. Barnes & Noble has built their bookstore connector using our platform. All of this is built specifically to support an interinstitutional collaboration and to the power of student success and student engagement. Again, we don't need to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but from a simple discussion perspective, this is how an actual transaction would go. For example, if an institution would implement something like Illuminate, what they would do is it will ultimately call your student information system like Banner and get the data from a SQL format. And once it gets the data, it can convert this data into a JSON or an XML or a blockchain transaction, all on the fly. So it's a completely real-time transaction API. If we don't store any data, all the data is completely transformed and translated on the fly. And the blockchain transaction, for example, any transaction can be converted into blockchain transaction because blockchain has APIs. And as far as we are concerned, we're just taking the data, serving it up to calling the blockchain API, converting it into blockchain transaction and sharing it. So that is how every transaction, any transaction that you can call from your database can be converted into a blockchain transaction. And our vision is simple. Our vision is to enable your campus to support your cloud integration, mobile integration, or any interinstitutional activities by acting as a single hub to become a middleware, if you will, or integration platform for your campus. And that's our specific vision is to make this specifically to support interoperability between campuses and between organizations. So whether you're trying to integrate on your campus, connect with a mobile device, or connect with a CRM system like Salesforce or a Workday, or whether you're trying to build your own portal, or whether you're trying to share data with any other state system, you can use Illuminate to share data with that. We have over 150 institutions as our customers. The entire state of Florida Virtual Campus use our platform to support all the 40 campuses to freely exchange data amongst themselves. Again, this is just a high-level overview of all the things that you can get. A single sign-on service that allows a student to be able to authenticate to your identity management system, a student information system, or learning management system, all of this exposed as blockchain APIs. There's a lot of information on our website. I'll be happy to share that with you. I can even do an interactive demo if you like. So I have a quick demo on what this would look like. Again, think of it more as a vision than an actual product, but this is because some of the things that I've talked about are so far-fetched, it might be tough to get your head wrapped around it. I want to at least show you a working prototype of what this would look like in a real student on what a personal value ledger powered by a blockchain looks like. So let me see if this works here. All right. Let's see. Can you hear me okay? So this is a student that's creating an account to Educoin. And the first step he does is he puts his profile on the system and says, this is my name. I'm just putting my email address and saving it next. I'm going to quickly go through it. The student will be able to think of it more like a LinkedIn, where a part of the system allows the student to be able to put their structured learning and unstructured learning. So here he's saying, I was a technician in a gaming in a company. I can add as many jobs as possible. I can put my high school information, the courses I've audited because I never got a formal degree. And this kid, he didn't know what he wanted to grow up, but he dropped out of school pretty quickly. But he did a few things. He started his own company. He exited it successfully, did some certifications, and his experience looks something like this. And maybe let's just take a second to appreciate this guy. So he worked at some gaming, he did a 2-year experience. He worked in some gaming company for a couple of years, started a technology firm, spent 21 years there, and then another technology firm, and then did a few other things, and did a lot of cool stuff. However, from an education perspective, he dropped out of college in second year, and he really did not have any formal education. And he's having some kind of midlife crisis. He's like, I started several successful companies. I want to know what all this means, what this means in terms of a structured experience. He wants to know if this qualifies him to get a degree or whatever. So I'm just going to submit this to validate his profile. And this is where the magic occurs. This is when the information is submitted, is verified through blockchain network and says, let me check to make sure this is real, like his employment history is real. Let me check to make sure his educational experience is real. Let me check to make sure that all this data he submitted is not some BS that he's put together, just like we all do on LinkedIn, but it's real information. And once it's done, there's a validation occurring. Sometimes the validation can be more complicated. The credential authority might say, this is cool that you've done this YouTube course on website design, but we want to test you. Or this is cool that you did this Udemy 25 years ago, but we want you to finish this certification. So the certifying authority can come back with some questions. But once they've done that, they issue him a certificate. Some people call it a micro credential. Some people call it a real credential. But the profile that I've created is actually emulating Steve Jobs' profile. And we just said, if Steve Jobs was really getting a formal education, he would be BBA, MBA, MIS, and probably 10 other degrees, but he would at least be a PhD in computer science. But the point that I'm trying to make here is, if we make this a process where a work experience and structured learning or educational academic learning can be integrated in and allowed to be shared in a seamless fashion, so that anybody who wants to get a job or wants to finish his academic curriculum can use this and trade this for a formal degree, then blockchains will realize the dream of accessible, affordable education, specifically built to support every student to learn wherever they want, however they want, without driving 65 miles a day, without spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a formal degree. And if we can do that in the next 5 years, we will all be happy that we have truly transformed and disrupted education. And Mike, thank you for the.
I think this is too important to miss what he just showed. Dr. Kathleen Martinez, can you come up here a second? I just verified with her. I've been around the block a while, and I know exactly what presidents and provosts are looking for, okay? All the talk prior to that button being pushed is nonsense to them. They really don't care. But the provost has been waiting for the day that that magic button gets pushed, and you see it happen. I'm gonna let her talk, but here's the question. She loves it because she understood the presentation, but the question is, do I trust Curran, right?
You should go to Bitcoin.
And the answer is no. However, I trust Curran much more if I can bring Kevin Clausen into the discussion because he's did it, or Fang into the discussion, and collectively, back to the theory, who's the smartest person in the room itself, especially when you're going through transformation like this. Do I trust a vendor who's working in the back room thinking they know everything? Absolutely not. It's not gonna work. But all of a sudden, when you start thinking through, we got smart people in education that ultimately are trying to accomplish exactly what she's gonna say she's been waiting all her life for. And I've helped college presidents author books about, hey, Mike, I spent 42 years of my life and I thought I could see education change and I was gravely disappointed. We are on the cusp of one of the greatest changes ever, and hopefully I'm able to help a couple people author that change. I'm gonna let her take it away a little bit. She's actually here to help you, Curran.
Right, this is what I was referencing, that we have to disrupt our current systems, and we have to find ways that are fluid with the person. And those of you who have been involved in higher education the last 20, 30 years, everything from degree completions, post, in that case, looking for the degree, and then all of us that know that it's post our degree that we attain so much more learning. The question is, how do I formalize that? How do I harness that? How do I pull that together in one place with ease that is with me throughout my life and continues to show my relevance and my currency as an individual to the world and what I can do. So I'm looking for a platform. Thanks. I'm looking for assistance.
Well, this is a blockchain transaction. As I said, every time an employer gets this, they can just click the verify button and the transaction is verified as well. It's done. Yes. So as part of the consortia offer, everybody in the blockchain conference here, they can just go to illuminateapp.com, our website, and they can just sign up for free. And we will, anybody who signs up today, we'll just give them our free trial is generally a 30-day free trial, but for blockchain network campuses, campuses in the educational conference here, they'll get an automatic extension for 90 days. And we're also releasing a new marketplace just for blockchain APIs. So once you enroll here, we'll put you in a separate bucket so that you're communicated about blockchain. And during the panel, we'll talk about the consortia and how we're building an infrastructure for blockchain so that we can all work together and solve the problems collectively. Just like Mike said, we are all, you know, we might not all be extremely smart, but together we are hyper smart. And if we can work together in a collaborative fashion using this collaborative fabric called blockchain network, we can truly transform education. Yeah.
Explain to me, is there a common certifying source? You gave the example of Steve Jobs, and I think you mentioned you have 100 and some companies or colleges. I can see every one of them giving a different value to his experience level. Is there one source that's going to say Jack Werner's information is the same always?
Yeah, so I think this is an evolving marketplace, if not non-existent marketplace. But what will happen is there will be very similar to transcript evaluation companies, right? There are right now a lot of credential companies that will look at the transcript and compare it with the syllabus and see what is it equivalent to from a US standards perspective. We see the marketplace evolving where there's going to be certifying authorities that will come up to review this data and compare it against the standards, whether it is US standards or European standards. And based on that, they will do the evaluation. But ultimately, it'll still be an unofficial evaluation, right? It'll just be saying, according to our evaluation of these records, this is what it is. Our formal evaluation would come in when somebody like Western Governors or ASU will take this data and accept it for credits. That's when the formal evaluation comes. We still see that for a student to be able to get a formal degree, they still have to get it through an actual institution, and the academic institution will do that. But just like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin will never, at least not in the next 5 years, there won't be a currency exchange where you can go in and trade a Bitcoin to get a US dollar, unless something changes rapidly. The same, yeah.
So one of the things, Jack, is there is an organization called, or a framework called LTI, Learning Technologies Interface or Interchange, that companies like Illusion will use, but it is far from the plumbing standards of the National Plumbing Association or the National Home Builders Association. It's very loose. And it's partly because there are so many different companies selling into education. And that's one of the dilemmas that a buyer of technology, I wish there was only one. I wish there was only one vendor, because then we'd have standards. And if we had standards, everything would work smoother. But because we live in a capitalist society, we can't have only one vendor. The alternative is an association or consortium that helps define, but not the cheap ones that are just blabbing about, different interconnections around the student information system. This is real stuff, but far from what you would experience in Jack. Jack happens to be one of the 10 master home inspectors in the country who's here and expert on standards in his realm of understanding. Any other questions? All right, well, we're gonna take a 15-minute break. There's cookies in back, I believe there's coffee, there's water. Feel free to ask questions, and then we'll introduce our last speaker before we go into the panel session. Give Karen another hand.